Welcome to the Octagon channel. Today we're going to bring you news from the world of MMA, boxing, and WWE. And here we go. In this video, the defining fight of Adesanya's future. Du Plessis versus Strickland at UFC 312. Volkanovski versus Topuria, rematch officially on the calendar. Eddie Alvarez's final fight. Israel Adesanya is preparing for his next challenge as he faces Nasruddin Imavov in the main event of the second UFC Fight Night in Saudi Arabia. The bout is scheduled for February 1 at the ANB Arena in Riyadh. Adesanya's journey in the UFC has been marked by both triumph and adversity. His first professional loss came at UFC 259 against Jan Blachowicz in an ambitious attempt to claim the light heavyweight title. Despite the setback, he rebounded by successfully defending his middleweight belt against Marvin Vettori, Robert Whittaker, and Jared Cannonier. However, his reign faltered at UFC 281 when Alex Pereira dethroned him. Adesanya later regained the title in spectacular fashion with a knockout victory over Pereira at UFC 287. More recently, his momentum stalled again, first with a decision loss to Sean Strickland at UFC 293, and then with a submission defeat to Dricus du Plessis last August in his bid to reclaim the middleweight crown. Ahead of this crucial fight, Robert Whittaker, a former champion and two-time opponent of Adesanya's, has been working with the Nigerian-New Zealander to prepare. On his MM Arcade podcast, Whittaker offered insight into his former rival's next matchup and Imavov's strategy. Imavov's grappling is very good, Whittaker explained. He gets the back of just about every opponent he fights. That's kind of where the fight wins for him. He doesn't beat Izzy in a 5-round striking contest. He takes him down, tries to get his back, and then it's about whether Izzy defends that position and escapes. Obviously, Adesanya's game plan will focus on not giving up his back at all costs. Granted, it's such a clear-cut direction for Imavov to try to achieve, Whittaker continued. Just about every fight he's had, he gets the back, locks in that body triangle, and works from there. I think that's the fight we're going to see. Adesanya trying to keep his distance and outstrike him, while Imavov looks to close the distance, push him up against the fence, take him down, and get his back. Israel Adesanya has the backing of a fellow former UFC middleweight champion ahead of his return to action in the Middle East this weekend. In his return to non-pay-per-view, non-championship assignments after consecutive defeats to Sean Strickland and Dricus du Plessis, the last stylebender is tasked with stalling the charge of a rising up-and-comer in Nasruddin Imavov. While his opponent comes into the contest riding momentum from 3 straight wins, Adesanya plans on showing there's life in the old dog yet, and former champ Michael Bisping, for one, expects him to do just that. During a video recently uploaded to his YouTube channel, Bisping explained why he's picking the Nigerian-New Zealander to emerge victorious inside ANB Arena on February 1. More than likely, Israel Adesanya gets a decision, Bisping said. I think he uses the jab. I think he lowers his base. I think he's probably pissed off and a little bit embarrassed. Israel Adesanya, when you're the champion of the world, when you're defending the belt so many times and you literally think you're shawty don't stink and you can beat everybody, you do get a little bit embarrassed. Your pride takes a hit when you lose 3 out of the last 4 and you see the middleweight division moving along without you. Over 5 rounds, I do believe Israel Adesanya wins via decision, Bisping continued. I think he maintains range, keeps his distance, moves around, uses all of the space inside the octagon, and in Saudi Arabia, Israel Adesanya will be the winner. The last stylebender will hope to prove Bisping's assessment correct come fight night and taste the winning feeling for the first time since his memorable knockout of Alex Pereira to return to the middleweight throne in April 2023. The title fights at UFC 312, featuring Dricus du Plessis versus Sean Strickland and Zhang Weili versus Tatiana Suarez, are expected to fly without any parachute heading into Sydney. Multiple people close to the promotion confirmed on Monday there are no plans to employ backup fighters for the championship bouts in Australia on February 8. While it has become common for the UFC to contract a backup fighter for title bouts, especially during the global pandemic that started in 2020, the promotion hasn't done that recently. There was no backup fighter in place for the flyweight title fight between Alexander Pantoja and Kaya Sakura at UFC 310, and the same goes for the two championship bouts scheduled at UFC 311 in January. That nearly backfired after lightweight champion Islam Makhachev lost originally scheduled opponent Arman Tsarukyan to a back injury the night before the official weigh-ins. Fortunately for the UFC, ranked lightweight Renato Moicano was already competing on the card, so he ended up replacing Tsarukyan and facing Makhachev on just 24 hours' notice. When it comes to UFC 312, neither the middleweight title fight nor the strawweight title fight have any notable names in those divisions elsewhere on the card. Many of the top contenders in both divisions are also already booked or unavailable, although middleweight Caio Borralho is planning on attending UFC 312, as he'll be cornering Bruna Brasil for her fight that night. At strawweight, Verna Jandiroba is already booked to face Jan Schaunen at UFC 314 in April, so they are unavailable backups for this card. Sean Strickland has plenty of backup in his corner when he faces Dricus du Plessis in a rematch with the middleweight title on the line at UFC 312. In addition to his regular crew of coaches, which includes head corner Eric Nixick, Strickland will receive some extra advice from UFC light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira. The Brazilian is set to corner Strickland for his fight against du Plessis after they actually fought back in 2022. Since then, Pereira and Strickland have trained together and become friends, while also no longer competing in the same weight class. Pereira is expected to serve as the fourth coach in Strickland's corner, per Nixick, who confirmed the news to MMA Fighting on Tuesday after initially revealing his plans to the Schmo on YouTube. Strickland is attempting to reclaim the middleweight title after he lost the belt to du Plessis back in January 2024 in a razor-close decision. Since that time, Strickland went on to beat perennial contender Paulo Costa to put himself in a position to get another shot at the belt. Meanwhile, du Plessis vanquished longtime foe Israel Adesanya with an impressive submission victory this past August in his first title defense. Following his win over Adesanya last year, du Plessis actually welcomed a future fight against Pereira after he posted a photo on Instagram saying he was interested in returning to middleweight for at least one more appearance to take on the new champion from South Africa. The fighters exchanged a few more words over social media and through interviews, but an actual bout between them never came to fruition. Instead, du Plessis can just look across the Octagon on February 8 when he's facing Strickland, and he'll see Pereira staring right back at him. According to one UFC fighter, the second dance between featherweight champion Ilia Topuria and Alexander Volkanovski is officially in the calendar. The two standouts at 145 pounds collided almost 12 months ago in Anaheim, where Topuria secured his crowning moment as an undefeated fighter with a thunderous knockout of Alexander the Great. After a break from competition, Volkanovski outlined his plans to return straight into another title fight, be it a rematch with the Spaniard or Max Holloway, who challenged the champ in Abu Dhabi last October. With El Matador keeping possession of the gold, his Australian rival has been expected to receive the next shot. And while talk of a lightweight move briefly put doubt over that, it would appear that all signs are pointing to a rematch. During the latest episode of the Nickels and Dimes podcast on his YouTube channel, Bo Nickels stoked that flame by going as far as to state that the bout is official for UFC 314 in Miami on April 12th. April 314, it's official, I know for a fact, Nickels said. I don't know that it was announced as a fact, but I know that Topuria versus Volkanovski 2 is happening. Nickel, who has gone 4-0 in the UFC to date and most recently defeated Paul Craig, went on to outline his own plans to compete on that card. The American's claim comes shortly after Dan Hooker, an occasional training partner of Volkanovski's, alleged that Topuria had turned down the rematch for UFC 313 in March due to weight concerns. Eddie Alvarez wanted nothing more than to put on a show in front of his hometown crowd in Philadelphia at BKFC Knucklemania 5 on Saturday, but a broken jaw ended his night early. On Monday, the former UFC lightweight champion showed off a gruesome X-ray that revealed the damage done from his fight with Jeremy Stephens, which came to an end after the third round. Alvarez's coaches stopped the fight with Stephens getting the technical knockout, and now we know why the Underground King couldn't continue. Got hit with a kill shot in the first or second round. Alvarez wrote on Instagram, "I did my best to keep a game face and ignore it. By the third round, the damage was too much. Please understand how bad I wanted this and what I sacrificed in order to win. It wasn't my night. Bare knuckle is as real as it gets. Unpredictable, fast-paced, and violent. This is unfortunately the second time Alvarez was stopped in a bare-knuckle fight after the damage he endured just wouldn't allow him to continue." Back in December 2023, Alvarez started strong but ultimately couldn't make it past the second round in his fight against Mike Perry after he suffered a broken orbital bone that forced a stoppage in that fight as well. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.